Hi everyone, we're here at the University of Dundee Botanic Gardens and it's gloriously sunny today, so we've chosen the best day for it. We're actually here with Liz from the Dundee Botanic Gardens and we'll be speaking to Kevin as well later. But Liz, do you want to just introduce yourself and tell us what your role here is?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Dr. Liz Lakin. I work here at the university in education and society. And but my role here at the Botanic Gardens is that I'm director of what we call the Living Lab. This is our hub for the Living Lab, but the Living Lab itself is actually a virtual entity, and it's research-based but also outreach as far as the community is concerned. So I have a cluster of PhD students all looking at education and sustainability and outdoor learning. It stems back by about 12 years actually to the work that I was doing when I first came to Dundee on the ponds in the Botanic Garden.
Oh, wow.
And we have two ponds, the one just behind us here, which is fed from the Ninewell Springs.
Oh, really? Oh.
And then one at the bottom of the garden, which is also fed from the Ninewell Springs. And the water as it comes into the garden is channeled in the two directions. And we've been doing pond dipping and collecting data on the quality of the water as the years have gone by.
Oh, wow.
And we're really quite proud at the moment the fact that we've actually seen two kingfishers, first time ever, which is a real sign of the quality of the water. And that the obviously the fact
are they quite fussy, the birds? They only like.
It's not so much fussy. It's more that it's showing that it's actually well balanced in terms of having a complete biodiversity. And they'll go for the sticklebacks. And we've got quite a few sticklebacks in the garden.
Oh, well, we'll keep an eye out and see if we might see any
if you can see the kingfishers, yes, absolutely. So the research we're doing is, like I say, we have about 8 PhD students at the moment on record, and they're doing a range of different projects. Some are looking at the community and how the garden is used by the community. Others are looking at plants in particular, and we've got one which you might be interested in, which is the daffodil project.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
And essentially what they're doing is extracting the chloroplasts from the daffodil leaves, and they're carrying out some genetic studies on that, trying to work out the lineage of the different daffodil bulbs.
Oh, so hopefully when the next couple of months as people see daffodils sort of coming into bloom, they'll sort of have a think about the science behind them.
Absolutely, and how they're related to each other.
Liz, what's really, in your opinion, the sort of importance of getting particularly young people interested in sort of plants and learning about plants, sorts of things?
I think it's trying to understand or getting an insight into how the natural and the urban world works. I mean, we're right in the middle of a climate crisis at the moment, aren't we? And the younger generation are very, very interested in that, and obviously, quite concerned about it. So the more they understand and are aware of what goes on around them and the impact that we have, the better, they're going to be able to respond to it.
I suppose it was a great opportunity for them to get out of the classroom and learn about these things, sort of like hands-on learning.
Yes, absolutely. But also trying to understand what it is that's going on, and like you say, you can actually see the things for real, touch them, zap up the environment.
Yeah.
And I mean, the pond work just really inspires so many different children, and adults as well. And they spend ages looking at all these different organisms.
Are there any opportunities such as volunteering or internships for local people to get involved?
Yes, absolutely. We have the Friends of the Garden, which is a really very well established and very active group. And within that, we have volunteers. So, a lot of the weeding and overseeing what's going on is through the Friends and through the volunteers there. But we also, you mentioned internships. I have a couple of interns who have been here since the summer through to the autumn, and now one is just finishing off. She's produced the most amazing project on medicinal plants, which should be coming out shortly. And that's really just for general use with the public who come through, but also with schools. Now, yes, admittedly, both of them were academic students, but there's opportunities for people anyway to come across if they want to do something in their holidays. And just get in touch with us.
But it's been fantastic chatting to you, Liz, and I believe we're going to be chatting to the creator of the University of Dundee Botanic Gardens, Kevin, in a second. So we'll just go find him now. we're here with Kevin, the curator of the University of Dundee Botanic Gardens. And Kevin, we're here in the tropical house. You've been telling us that there's so many fascinating species and plants that you wanted to share with us today.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, thank you for coming along. But in terms of on a cold day in Dundee, there's nowhere better I can think of being than in a tropical house. And not only is the tropical house an amenity, a nice place you can come on a cold day in Dundee, but it's also a place where we grow plants which you can learn about from around the tropical parts of the world, which provide economic or practical benefit to us, whether it's medicines, whether it's fruits, flowers. But it's also a place of conservation. And here we've got a plant thought to be extinct on Centellina. It's called the Centellina ebony.
Okay.
It's a plant that was found by a guy called Quentin Cronk from Cambridge University Botanic Gardens and brought back into cultivation at Cambridge. And from Cambridge, they propagated it up. They shared it with Kew and other botanic gardens, and we've got one here. And now around the world, botanic gardens act as a meta-population, a bigger population of plants to make sure that it won't get lost.
And it just goes to show how important locations like this are for conserving species.
2 out of every 5 plants that we hold in here is threatened with extinction in the wild.
Wow.
And that's the same around the globe.
So now we've moved on to the Tayside habitat area, Kevin, that you're kind of passionate about.
Yeah, so at the heart of the garden, to put it into context, we've got around 5 acres that through the 8 Tayside habitats show the plants, but also provide home for the animals that would have been associated with landscapes here before us, before mankind. So we've got the sand dune habitats that you find at Broughty Ferry, and here we're stood right on the top of the Angus Glens. This could be Glen Clover, but it's Glen Clover like you don't see it when you go up there today, because we don't have the great thing going on of the deer and the sheep, so these man-made influences. And it allows us to show the habitats so that people can learn about those species that are close by them. At the same time, we also do conservation work here. So we've got rare junipers that we find up in those glens, which are all wild collected from those glens. We've got the wild willows that are behind you. You can just work out their sort of golden tips to the young growth. And if you look in amongst them, you'll find the little pussy willows just beginning to start warming as we come into spring and opening. Biodiversity is found in specific little niches that come about because of light and shade. They come about because of differences in humidity. They come about in differences of disturbance, and disturbance is key here. So where you've got stress, so you feel it today, I'm a little bit cold, aren't you? So this is a cold space, but it's also one that goes from cold through with the warmth of the sun to quite warm for short durations, and then back to very, very cold.
Very changeable.
That changeable is when plant cells can lyse and break open. So the plants here have a internal plumbing system that allows them to make sure that they don't completely freeze. So that when they come out of thawing, the ice doesn't expand and blow them apart. Amazing organisms. But they've evolved over thousands of years to be in those habitats. But in the lowlands, there's fertile soils, and that allows to grow trees. And so we're going to walk from the highlands
down to the lowlands. Much quicker than it would be. That's great.
So wonderful.
So we've made it down from the top of the hills to the pond area. And Kevin, I was going to ask you, this water, is it something that sort of is artificial? Is it feeding from one of the local sort of springs in Dundee?
Well, you'll know that this end of Dundee has the hospital. And Nine Wells Hospital. Okay, so one of the 9 wells happens to bubble up in the corner of the Botanic Garden.
Oh, really?
This site was chosen 50 years ago because it had a beautiful south-facing slope by the side of the River Tay. But it also had this source of water in the corner, which has been harnessed to not only form the pond that you see at the entrance, where we grow a lot of exotic plants.
Yeah.
It has properties that because it comes from a spring, it never goes below 4 degrees temperature.
Oh, really? Oh.
So we can grow plants outside in that upper pond that you wouldn't normally be able to grow outside in Dundee. Plants like this in botanic gardens and gardens generally, since about the 16th century, people have been bringing back plants as we explored the world. One of the great plant collectors is a guy called Major George Sheriff that ended up living at Ysgrifi, which is up in the Angus Glens, and he'd amassed this collection of plants. And in 1943 to 45, the last of his plant collecting trips, those plants he brought back from seed he germinated and grew himself. So the oldest plants in this garden are these plants, which look the smallest, but they're also some of the rarest. So we saved up the money and bought them. So although they only came here in the 1980s, these plants are over 100 years old.
Oh, really?
In many respects, botanic gardens are only just beginning to become centres of biodiversity, outreach, engagement, and if you like, exploration. And the new exploration is putting back, not taking.
Exactly.
And so anybody who's interested in a career like that, I can tell you it's a life well lived. Because you not only make a difference in your own life in terms of your well-being, working outdoors, working with plants, but also the next 50 years about restoring habitats.
People are interested in getting involved in a career like working at a botanic garden, not necessarily here in Dundee, but anywhere. What advice would you give to someone?
In Scotland, we've got the Institute of Horticulture and the Royal Caledonian Horticultural Society, and they're set up to support somebody who wants to go on that journey. But if you just have a question that you're interested, then come to your local garden and ask someone like me. And I could think of no better way of spending a day than with someone who's interested in learning how to replace me in the future. So,
that's fantastic. I think that's a fantastic place probably to end it. Thank you so much, Kevin, for showing us around, and we'll put all the details of how to come and visit and maybe more information about the University of Dundee Botanic Gardens in the link to the video so that you can find out more. But thank you, Kevin. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Cheers.